Will the keeper of the flame please bring forward the Christ candle? Namaste.
Good morning, beloved of God. Right where you are at this moment, the light of Spirit shines through you. Infinitely loved by God, you are the light of the world. I'm Bernie, and I welcome you to Unity Spiritual Center of Waco this morning. And as a reminder, please ensure your cell phones are off or muted. Please stand as you are able and join in our congregational singing.
We've been waiting for, we may you rejoice in the new life within you as you release the old and worn. Open your heart with praise and thanksgiving. May you see God. May you awake to a world of beauty, lifted up from times of tears, aware of the grace that tenderly carries you. May you see God. May you feel God. Was there a time in your life you might have glimpsed something unseen? Now you can believe it's real. May you look back on a life sweet with memories, understanding all was right, and in the whisper of your last breath, may you see God. May you feel God. May you know God.
Statement of truth, which is on the screen. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. We are a beacon of love and light for those who need this spiritual home right now. Let us say together our vision, mission, and core value for today. Our vision: to awaken an awareness of spirit in our lives through modern application of ancient wisdom. Our mission: raise consciousness, transform lives, heal the planet one person at a time, beginning with me. Our core value for today is stewardship. We commit to the practice of giving and receiving, to living prosperity principles, and to being good stewards of the abundance God gives our families, our church, and our world. And now Penny will read the daily word.
The daily word for today, Sunday, August 14th, is holy. There are certain places I visit where the presence of God feels especially near, places that feel holy. These may include churches and other houses where I become vividly aware of the divine presence in holy ground. I remember these words from the Prayer for Protection by Unity poet James Dillett Freeman. Wherever I am, God is. The divine presence I know lives within me. It is the true essence of my life and of every life. Today, my understanding expands. I discover the divine presence all around me and find holiness everywhere. Every person is a holy being. Every place is holy ground. And from Genesis chapter 28, verse 16, then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." Our affirmation for today, and I'll say it, and we'll all say it together. I discover holiness everywhere and in everyone. I discover holiness everywhere and in everyone.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Bernie. This is the time in our service when we normally get up and greet each other with a handshake or a hug. So we're just going to stand up and wave at each other this morning. Let's do that now. And a special hello to all of you out there who are watching us by live stream. We love you and we bless you. And we don't have any children with us this morning, but in our hearts we do. We have our own children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all the children of the world. So let's envision all of the children who have meaning to us and all of the children of the world. Rub our hands together with nice, warm energy and hold them up and say, "Children of the world, we love you. We bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are." You're going to do the video now since we're okay, since we're long, but.
When things go wrong, it's natural to wonder, what celestial rule did I break? When things go right, it's logical to ponder, what credit can I take? But the truth is so much easier. I don't need a master plan. I can live here in the moment, 'cause my life is in good hands. I don't need to know where the wind blows, 'cause God don't need to know what the future holds, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go still I find I'm crying out for answers. Guess I'm still craving control. And still I find I'm afraid of taking chances, as if I could damage my soul. But at this moment, I remember it comes so clear to me that the minute I surrender, I'm as safe as I could be. I don't need to know where the time goes, 'cause God knows. I don't need to know what the future holds, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go. I can just let go. I can just let go. 'Cause God knows. God knows. God knows.
Well, you may have two things. Number one, that Lucinda is not with us today. And the reason is that Doug's mother and Lucinda's grandmother made her transition this week. And so our thoughts and prayers are with them as they grieve the loss of that beautiful woman. And she had a long and beautiful life. And we grieve with you too, Penny, because I know you grew to love her very much too. So the other thing you may have noticed is that the video that we had was actually created by Lucinda during the time when we had the COVID outbreak and we were doing the service online on Zoom. Lucinda made many different videos for us to have during that time. It was really the only music we had since we couldn't have congregational singing. So even though she's not with us today, at least we had part of her with us in that song. So, well, good morning again. As if you didn't know, I'm Reverend Margo Ford, and I do welcome each of you to Unity Spiritual Center of Waco. Together we affirm and celebrate our unity, our oneness with each other, our oneness with all that is, and our oneness in God. I'd like to remind you that your presence is essential. For each of us is an aspect, a unique aspect of the energy that expresses as Unity Spiritual Center of Waco, right here and right now. And we affirm no one is here by accident or coincidence. Unity is a New Thought denomination, yet New Thought is nothing new to the world. It is, in reality, a synthesis of the greatest concepts from the minds and spirits of humankind across the ages. The laws of Moses, the love of Christ, the ethics of Buddha, the morals of Confucius, the 5 pillars of Islam, and the deep realization of the Hindus all find an exalted place in the philosophy of unity. In unity, we believe that all people are created with sacred worth, regardless of culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or creed. And we know that neither God nor unity leave anyone out. So let us join together now in a time of prayer. Eternal presence, author of all that is, we come together this morning in a spirit of joy, a spirit of gratitude, in a spirit of wonder at all that is, wonder at the many things that we do not know or understand, but we know, that you, divine presence, know. You know that everything is unfolding as it should, even though it doesn't seem so to our human minds. It seems to us that there's chaos, chaos in the world, and sometimes chaos in our lives, fearsome things. And yet when we turn within and feel your presence, we can, at least for a moment, feel a sense of serenity, of peace, and gratitude. Gratitude for all the good that remains, regardless of what else is happening in our lives or in the world. We hold in our hearts all people everywhere. We lift them up in prayer, knowing that there is healing, prosperity, divine order, and comfort unfolding in each person's life, right here and right now. And we also allow ourselves to envision with great conviction, with great emotion and passion, the leaders of our country and all countries of the world, being inspired by your divine presence within them to come together in a spirit of cooperation, a spirit of harmony, and a spirit of peace, so that there may be peace and prosperity across our entire planet. For we know that your will for us is our highest good, and we give thanks. We remember that when the apostles asked Jesus, Lord, how should we pray? Jesus said to them, pray like this. And he offered them the Lord's Prayer, which we say together now, as translated from the Aramaic. Infinite presence, which is everywhere, your name is sacred, your kingdom is come, your will is throughout the earth, even as it is throughout the universe. You give us our needful bread from day to day, and you forgive our offenses, even as we forgive our offenders. You let us not enter into materialism, but you separate us from error, because yours are the kingdom, the power, the song, and the praise, from all ages, throughout all ages, sealed in faith, trust, and truth. Each of us is the light and love of God, spiritual beings having a human experience. You are God's beloved, and we embrace you today. And I don't know what to do right now because we should have some special music or video. And so you're just stuck with me, and I'm just going to start my talk right now. So you may remember that I had told you we were going to do a series on shady ladies in the Bible. And 2 weeks ago, we started. So today, we're continuing that series. And you may have noticed that the title of today's message is The Untruthful Harlot. Like our first shady lady 2 weeks ago, I'm guessing many of you may be wondering, who was this woman? And if she was a harlot and an untruthful one to boot, why is her story even in the Bible? Well, maybe some of you who are or were or are Bible scholars already know this woman's name and what she did, why she lied, what she lied about, and the consequences of her behavior. And maybe the rest of us don't. Well, to answer the first question about who she was, we don't really know. We don't know anything about her origins. And as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, it's not unusual not to know something about women in the Bible, because in the Bible, women were identified typically in relationship to some male figure, a husband or a son that they gave birth to, a male who at some point played a key role in Hebrew history. So here's what we do know about her. She lived in the city of Jericho, close to the city wall, and she was known to the men of the area. Well, I guess so. And even the king of the king of Jericho knew where she lived. I wonder why he knew that. The Bible doesn't clarify that. Well, before we hear more about her, we need to have a little background. So let's go back to the Genesis story, which said that God had promised Abraham that he would have descendants numerous as the stars, and also to his descendants the land from the river of Egypt, the two great rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris. Well, and that land is what today roughly constitutes parts of Israel, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. The next thing we have to remember is that Moses led the Israelites out of captivity in Egypt, and they wandered, according to the Bible, 40 years in the desert. It's a long time to be wandering. For 40 years until they finally came to the promised land. But, and you may remember this, Moses was not allowed to lead the people into the promised land. Why, you ask? Because when God told Moses to strike a rock to give people water, he did it in a way that seemed that Moses himself did it, instead of telling them that it was from God. Now we take this all with a grain of salt, but it's a good story anyway. So, of course, it was Joshua who ultimately led the people into the promised land. And that's where our story begins and leads us to the home of the untruthful harlot. Her story begins in the book of Joshua. As the story begins to unfold, we read that Joshua was told by God to lead the Israelites out of Jordan and to declare that everywhere they stepped should be their land. We also read that God reminds Joshua to follow the laws that he has given Moses and to be strong and courageous. So as they make ready to go, all the people swear allegiance to Joshua and to God. But Joshua decides to send a couple of men to kind of look around, get a lay of the land, sort of a reconnaissance mission, so to speak. So they wind up in Jericho at the home of the woman in our story. The Bible calls her Rahab, the prostitute. And we have a picture of her, one of many I found on the internet. Now, why Joshua's men happened to go to the house of this particular woman, the Bible doesn't clarify, nor does it mention what they were doing while they were there. However, we could make an educated guess. Well, meanwhile, someone has told the king of Jericho that those two Israelites have come spying on the land. The king is infuriated by this, so he sends a couple of his henchmen to Rahab's house to demand that she send them out. From what the Bible tells us, I'm guessing Rahab says something like this to the king's men when they arrive. Gosh, you just missed them. They were here, but golly gee, I had no idea where they were from. They just took off and didn't mention where they might be headed. But I bet if you go really quickly, you can probably catch up to them. It wasn't that long ago that they packed and left. She was obviously very convincing because off they went in hot pursuit. In reality, Rahab had hidden the two men among the stalks of flax in the roof. Now, we might wonder why she did this. What could possibly have prompted Rahab to hide two men in her own and lie to her own people about the fact that they were there? After all, Rahab herself was not an Israelite, and she had heard credible rumors that the Israelites were on the way to destroy Jericho and kill all of the people. Also, if she had lied to the king's men and was found out, she would have been put to death. Seems like there must have been some good reason that she would lie to take that chance. Actually, there were two. Two good reasons, according to the Bible. The first was that Rahab said she knew that the Lord had given the Israelites the land, and that she had heard stories about how they crossed the Red Sea, which had parted when they came out of Egypt, as well as how the Israelites had destroyed several so-called enemy tribes. So Rahab had come to believe that the God of the Israelites was the true God. Her second reason was that Rahab was a pretty smart cookie, and she was bartering for protection from the Israelites when they would come to wipe out Jericho. So let's see what it says in the Bible. I'm going to read from Joshua chapter 2, verses 8 through 14. It says, "Before they went to sleep, she came up to the roof and said to the men, 'I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that dread of you has fallen on us, and all of the inhabitants of the land melt in fear before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, in Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. As soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no courage left in any of us because of you. The Lord our God is indeed God in heaven above all on earth. Now then, since I have dealt kindly with you, swear to me by the Lord that you in turn will deal kindly with my family. Give me a sign of good faith that you will spare my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and deliver our lives from death." The men said to her, "Our life for yours. If you do not tell the business of ours, then we will deal kindly and faithfully with you when the Lord gives us the land." Then she let them down by a rope through a window. So as you see, what happened is Rahab lets the guys down from the attic through a window on a red cord, and I think we have a picture of that too. So it is to their advantage that the window is, as you can see, on the outside of the city wall, so they can easily get away. She also gives the men instructions on which way to go and advises them to hide in the hills for 3 days so that those who were looking for them couldn't find them. The men tell Rahab to make sure that she gathers her family into the house and to hang from her window that same red cord that she helped them escape with. So, when the Israelites come to destroy the city, did the men keep their word to Rahab? If we continue to read in chapter 6:25, it says, "And Joshua and Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all they had, and she dwelt in Israel even unto this day." It's probably not today, but that's what it says in the Bible. "Because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho." So is that it? Rahab saves a couple of spies and her family is spared? Well, perhaps, but actually there's more. You probably guessed that already. On the surface, Rahab was simply a prostitute who risked her life to help 2 Israelite spies take over and destroy her homeland. Significant? Yes. But is she really that significant in the grand scheme of things? Apparently so, for we actually find Rahab being praised even in the New Testament, both in the book of Hebrews and the book of James. Interpreters of Rahab's act indicate that she had faith in the Hebrew God, which is what inspired her choice to hide the Israelite spies. In chapter 11 of Paul's letter to the Hebrews in the New Testament, you'll find an oft-quoted scripture. "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen." Then Paul goes on to enumerate the many patriarchs from the Old Testament who demonstrated faith in God. Names such as Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jacob, Gideon, David, Samuel, and the prophets are listed. And in verse 29 it says, "By faith Rahab the harlot did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had received the spies in peace." James chapter 2, verse 25 and 26 says, "In the same way was not even Rahab the harlot considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to 2 spies and sent them off in different directions?" James is saying that Rahab's faith and her action are an example to all of us. Interesting to note that each time she's mentioned in the New Testament, she is referred to as Rahab the harlot. So, we remember that Jesus spent much more time with outcasts like tax collectors and perhaps even prostitutes rather than religious scholars. And just as Jesus sought out social outcasts for his ministry, a prostitute could play a vital role in the history of the Israelites. Her past sins did not matter. As she herself says, her heart had been melted and she was transformed. Well, that could be the end of Rahab's story, but in fact, it's not. Remember last time when we found out that Tamar became the mother of Perez, who was ultimately an ancestor of King David? Well, guess what? If we go to the book of Matthew again, where there's a mind-boggling list of generation after generation is listed, we actually find Rahab is also one of the ancestors of King David. And of course, not only was it significant to be an ancestor of King David, but of even more significance is the fact that Jesus is said to have come from the house of David. Then Rahab ultimately married a man named Salmon and became the mother of Boaz. You may remember from last week that Boaz was a descendant of Tamar's son, Perez. Boaz married Ruth, who became the great-grandmother of David. I know it would be close to impossible to remember all of those who married whom, but the point is that two women who did things that cause us to even raise our eyebrows today ultimately played a significant role in the Judeo-Christian history. As I've often told you, in Unity, we also look for a deeper meaning beyond the story's historical significance and seek the metaphysical interpretation. That means that each person, place, and event is viewed as an aspect of our own consciousness as spiritual beings having a human experience. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, gives us this metaphysical meaning of Rahab. So the love of the natural man in us, when turned to the things of spirit, opens the way for our consciousness, for our new birth into the realization and demonstration of our divine sonship. I have to admit that's a little confusing to me. So to conclude our story of the untruthful harlot, I offer you this additional interpretation I was guided to experience about the meaning of Rahab. Rahab the harlot represents our ability to transform and expand human expressions of love into spiritual love and actions, knowing that we are always and forever individualized expressions of God. So there you have it. So let's take some time now for meditation. And I invite you to be comfortable where you are seated. Put your feet flat on the floor. To gently allow your eyes to close and to take in a deep, cleansing breath. As you breathe in, recall that it is the breath of God that infills every cell of your body. And as you exhale, I invite you to allow anything that's weighing heavily on your mind or in your heart to simply float off on that exhaled breath. And now I invite you to turn within to know the presence of God within you. In that heart space, to envision the presence of God as your very life. And so for the next few moments, I invite you to allow my words to be your words. As I turn within and recognize that I am an expression of divine life, I am filled with awe. How can that possibly be? How can it possibly be that I am an expression of divine life? I know it is part of a divine design that all of creation is an expression of God's presence. I am a divine expression of God's presence. All that I say, all that I do, I allow to be guided and directed by the presence of God within me. And when I forget, I can remember again and start over. For there is always room. There is always room for God's presence in my life, in my physical presence, in my spirit, in my emotions. I am blessed beyond measure to know that I am an expression of God's divine presence, and that all whom I encounter, regardless of how they appear to me, they too are an expression of God's divine presence. I hold in my heart the idea that all people will come to know the presence of God within them. How joyful I would be to hear that, to see that, to feel it, to see the expression of the presence of God expressing in and through all people, everywhere, every moment of every day. So I take a few moments now in the silence to imagine how it would be if all people everywhere knew and expressed the love, the peace, and the joy of God that is their birthright, that is within them. In the silence, and now as we prepare to bring our awareness back to this time and this place, we remember that we can always turn within to access the presence of God moving in and through and as each of us. And for this, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen and amen.
This is a time in our service when we have an opportunity to give back to the work of Spirit through our offerings and our tithes. We give in love and gratitude for our own prosperity in its many forms, which comes to us through God, our instant, constant, and abundant source. Will the ushers please come forward? I invite you to hold your offerings in your hand as we say our offertory blessing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all of the good I am and have, all of the good I give and receive, and I am grateful.
Music that you heard when the announcements were being shown is called Rain. I thought that was very appropriate. Will the ushers please come forward again so we might bless these offerings? Oh, music for that, do we? Okay, I guess I will have to lead it then. My gift goes forth on the wings of love, and it lands where it can heal and bless. It returns to me, multiplied 1,000-fold, as the universe says yes, yes, as the universe says yes. But we're not going to circle up now. We're just going to stand where we are and say our prosperity affirmation, our prayer for protection, and sing together the peace song. We do have music for that. All right, let us say our prosperity affirmation together. We affirm the continued growth and prosperity of Unity Spiritual Center of Waco, and we are grateful. Our prayer for protection, the light of God surrounds us. Love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well.